Behind the scenes, this Chargers draft feels like a lot more than just a list of picks. It feels like a message from inside the building. Joe Hortiz is building for January in 2026, but he is also protecting 2027 before the real bill comes due. There is a new pass rusher, a hidden offensive line bet, a veteran weapon who fits almost too perfectly, and a speed piece Mike McDaniel basically had to be fired up about. Hit that like button, subscribe, because today we are reading the signals Los Angeles is not saying out loud. And the first piece on this board is Akheem Mesidor, because taking a pass rusher at number 22 is never just about adding another body. Not when this roster just lost UDFA Owe to Washington after getting real production from him last season. The easy read would be simple. One edge left, another edge came in. But when you look deeper at roster building, this feels a lot more calculated than that. Mesidor comes from Miami at 25 years old, and that matters because he is older than a lot of prospects in this class. That changes the expectation. The Chargers did not take some raw teenage project they can wait on for 3 years. They took a player who came from a tough defensive front, shared attention with Ruben Bain Jr., competed inside a serious program, and now arrives in Los Angeles looking like someone who can help sooner rather than later. For a team talking about a real playoff push, that detail is huge. But the most interesting part is not only 2026. It is what this pick might be saying about 2027. Khalil Mack came back on a one-year deal worth $18 million, and nobody should be surprised by that. He is still respected. He still changes protection calls. He can still teach the game in ways most players cannot. But the clock is real. He could retire. He could look for another situation. He could simply not be part of the next version of this defense. And Tuli Polo II, who led the team with 13 sacks in 2025, is also not signed beyond 2026. That is where the room gets quiet for a second, because Tuli is homegrown talent. He is a second-round pick who has improved every single year. He is exactly the kind of player Chargers fans want to see stay in Los Angeles. But Joe Hortiz has already shown he is not handing out big contracts based on emotion. SpotTrack has Tuli's market value near $18.7 million per year, with a 4-year projection at $74.6 million. Does it make sense to pay him? To me, yes, if he keeps climbing. But the fact that there is no extension yet makes Mesidor feel like an insurance policy with real explosion. And that is what I like about the Chargers' aggression here. If Tuli stays, Mesidor can be developed as Mac's natural successor while learning from one of the best teachers in the league. If Tuli does not stay, Mesidor becomes a major piece of a rebuild that started before the panic button ever got pushed. And with Chris O'Leary running the defense, you can already picture third down packages with Mac, Tuli, and Mesidor all on the field, attacking from different angles and forcing quarterbacks to play faster than they want to. So the real question is not whether Mesidor will play. He should have a path to early snaps. The bigger question is how much this coaching staff trusts him when the game gets heavy, when protection slides toward Mac, when Tuli draws attention, and when the defense needs pressure that was not drawn up perfectly on the call sheet. Because if Mesidor answers quickly, the Chargers did not just get a first-round rookie. They got flexibility for the next era of their pass rush. Now, moving away from the first-round spotlight, there is a move that does not come with the same headline noise, but it feels like the scouting department quietly smiling in the background. Isaiah World signing as an undrafted free agent. And I know, when fans hear UDFA, a lot of people immediately throw the player into the camp body bucket. But this one does not feel that simple. This feels like the exact kind of name a front office keeps on the board, tracks through day 3, waits for the phones to open after the draft, and then tries to win fast. World, the offensive tackle from Oregon, had the size, the frame, and the profile to get drafted. The issue was the knee. The ACL injury he suffered during the college football playoffs changed everything, and he will probably miss the entire 2026 season. So we are not talking about someone walking in and fighting for immediate snaps. We are not talking about a Sunday-ready backup right now. We are talking about a behind-the-scenes bet, almost like an investment the Chargers can lock away for later. And to me, that fits what Los Angeles is trying to do on the offensive line. They already attacked protection in the draft. They already showed they understood the pain of a season where Justin Herbert took too much punishment. And still, they did not stop with the main pick. They went after another big tackle body with a major program background and a clear medical reason for slipping. That is the kind of risk I can live with, because this is not betting blindly. It is betting that his fall had one specific cause, and that the right environment can bring the value back. The possible plan here is simple and smart. Keep World in the building, let him rehab with the Chargers' strength and conditioning staff, maybe stash him on injured reserve if the roster structure allows it, and turn 2026 into a year of physical rebuilding and professional adjustment. Meanwhile, he learns the routine, the meetings, the language, the standard, the technique, and all the things a healthy rookie sometimes has to absorb while sprinting just to survive. World would have time. And look at how that connects to the bigger picture. If a franchise is serious about protecting Herbert, it cannot build the offensive line with only pretty starters on paper. You need depth, you need development, you need players who look far away today but could become a useful backup, a real camp competitor, or even a surprise piece a year from now. Not every roster win is born on draft weekend. Some are born when nobody is paying attention, with a cheap contract and a patient coaching staff. Isaiah World is not a headline, not yet, but if the Chargers truly believed he had a draftable grade before the injury, this is one of those bets I like. Low cost, clear logic, physical upside, and time to work. And when the subject is keeping Justin Herbert upright, I am not going to complain about Los Angeles stacking big bodies in the trenches. And this is where the post-draft market starts getting dangerous for anyone who thinks the roster is already finished. The Chargers left the draft without taking a tight end. They still have some money to work with, and Joe Hortiz understands the value of waiting for the calendar to flip so he can protect the compensatory pick formula. That is not just spreadsheet trivia. That is real behind-the-scenes management. It is knowing when to spend, when to hold, and when to attack a veteran without damaging future return. In that scenario, Darren Waller becomes very hard to ignore. And not just because he is a familiar name. It is because the fit has layers. The Chargers needed to come out of the draft with another option in the tight end rotation, but the class was thin, names came off the board quickly, and that must-have player never really landed in the right spot. If Kenyon Sadiq had somehow fallen to number 22, maybe the conversation looks different. But because the board moved another way, Los Angeles can now look at Waller as a market solution that almost feels designed for this offense. The Mike McDaniel connection matters. Waller returned to football after a year in retirement, and in Miami, showed he could still hurt defenses inside this type of system. He had 24 catches, 283 yards, and 6 touchdowns, with 4 of those touchdowns coming in his first 3 games back. That says a lot about the role. He does not need to be the entire volume of the offense. He needs to be a red zone threat, a reliable matchup target, and someone Herbert can find when the field gets tight. And then there is another layer, because Hortiz was in Baltimore's front office when the Ravens drafted Waller in the 6th round back in 2015. His Baltimore run was not the peak of his career, but the connection exists, and Hortiz has already shown he likes players with some kind of link back to that world. That does not guarantee a signing, but inside his logic it makes plenty of sense. The tight end room also supports this idea. Oronde Gadsden II can be the primary receiving tight end. Charlie Kolar can handle more of the blocking role. What is missing is exactly that second tight end who can win as a pass catcher, especially near the end zone. Waller does not have to carry a heavy blocking burden if Gadsden has improved there. He can be used for what he still does well. So I am throwing this one to the Chargers community. Would you bring in Waller now, knowing he understands McDaniel's system and solves a clear need? Or would you save the space and wait for another market cut? Honestly, I see a clean opportunity. Right veteran, right role, probably a more controlled price, and a quarterback who can give value back to any big target who knows how to get open. If that phone is not already rung, it should ring soon. And now we get to the piece that probably had the offensive room smiling before the announcement even cooled off. Brenen Thompson. Because when the Chargers take the fastest receiver in this class after bringing in Mike McDaniel to redesign the offense, nobody is convincing me this was random. This feels like an old conversation. A playbook board with ideas already written on it. A coach pounding the table for one very specific trait. Thompson ran a 4.26 at the combine. That number alone changes coverage, but reducing him to a stopwatch would be lazy. What makes this pick more interesting is that he does not arrive as some speed-only receiver who lives only on screens, reverses, and go routes. At Mississippi State, defensive backs respected his deep threat so much that they gave him space before the play even started, and Thompson knew how to use that. He could sell vertical, attack cushion, stack cornerbacks, and track the deep ball over his shoulder naturally. For Justin Herbert, that is beautiful. And here is the best behind-the-scenes part. After the pick, the Chargers' own social content showed Mike McDaniel fired up about the idea. That line, "If you're not fired up, you're dead," basically became a receipt for the excitement. This is not just fans forcing the fit in their heads. The offensive coach was buying the vision from inside the building. And when a coach like McDaniel looks at a smaller, lighter, explosive receiver and sees a role, the entire offense starts to get a different feel. Of course, the comparisons came quickly. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. It is almost unavoidable because of McDaniel's history in Miami. But even Harbaugh and Hortiz handled that conversation with more precision. Tyreek entered the NFL with a thicker frame. The name Hortiz mentioned, Deshaun Jackson, might fit the imagination better. Similar size, outside threat, true deep speed, and the ability to be more than just a gadget player. The reception data also helps slow down the hype while making the curiosity even stronger. Matt Harmon pointed to a 70.9% success rate against man coverage and 67.6% against press. For a 164-pound receiver, that jumps off the page. It does not mean he is ready to become a star right away. It means there is more to his game than a lot of people assume when they only see the weight and the speed. And to me, the fit is the real point. Ladd McConkey can keep being that trust piece. Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, and Keandre Lambert-Smith can fight for space in a different type of role. Thompson brings a different fear to the defense. He makes safeties think twice. He opens up the underneath game. He gives Herbert the kind of target who changes the geometry before the snap. If McDaniel times this right, without rushing the kid and without hiding him either, the Chargers may have found the spark that makes this offense way less predictable. At the end of the day, what we are seeing is a Chargers team that feels less improvised and more cold-blooded in the way it is being built. Mesidor protects the future of the pass rush. Isaiah World is scout patience, not empty headline chasing. Darren Waller would be the kind of post-draft move that fits the system, the calendar, and the need. And Brenen Thompson shows McDaniel wants real speed to open the field for Herbert. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes work that can change a season before the first snap. Now tell me in the comments, which one of these 4 moves could matter the most in 2026? If you want to track every Chargers signal, subscribe and stay right here.